8 of the fantasy football season. Here's a few wide receivers I have as sleepers this week. The first guy, KJ Osborne of the Minnesota Vikings. So right here, the Minnesota Vikings got a tough matchup versus the Dallas Cowboys in Week 6, where I'm going to see a lot of points on the board, in my opinion, are going to go down. Osborne, he's been pretty decent so far in fantasy with a couple big games this season and a couple mediocre games. So his biggest game of the year was Week 2 at the Arizona Cardinals. 5 catches, 91 yards, and a touchdown. Then Week 5 versus Detroit, 3 catches for 14 yards. And then Week 6 at Carolina, 6 catches, 78 yards, and a touchdown, including the game-winning touchdown in overtime to seal the deal for the Vikings in victory. And now Week 8 here versus Dallas, like I mentioned, it's going to be a shootout in my opinion. Both teams going up and down the field. And Kirk Cousins, he spreads that football around to all his wide receivers and even running backs out of the backfield and tight ends. So right here, the Dallas Cowboys, they make plays on defense and cause turnovers, but they still give up a lot of yards and they still give up a decent amount of fantasy points. And I think this week Osborne could have a decent ball game with 60 or 70 yards and possibly find the end zone in this one. The second wide receiver is Van Jefferson of the Los Angeles Rams. So Van Jefferson, the last couple weeks, his snap count has gone up and the production's gone up slowly as well this season. A few ball games he broke out, then a few games he was quiet, and then last week he re-emerged versus the Detroit Lions. 4 catches, 43 yards, and found the end zone. And right here in Week 8 at Houston, it's a pretty good matchup. We know the Texans don't really stop anyone, and teams start off in great field position versus the Texans because their offense puts them in bad position on defense. So in this game, I think Jefferson once again finds the end zone, but he's going to have a low yardage type of ball game, 30 or 40 yards once again with a touchdown, and he's available still in a whopping 89% of fantasy leagues. And the third and final wide receiver I have as a sleeper this week's Khalif Raymond of the Detroit Lions. So I mentioned him as a pickup off the wire this week, and he only got added in 3% of fantasy leagues, so he's still out there as well in 94% of fantasy leagues. In the last 2 weeks here, he's been the leader at wide receiver for this Detroit Lion team. Week 6 versus Cincinnati, 6 catches, 37 yards. And Week 7 at the Rams, a huge ball game, 6 catches, 115 yards. So right here, he's getting the targets, he's getting the reps. St. Brown, he was off to a good start early in the year, but right now it looks like Khalif Raymond's the number 1 wide receiver over there in Detroit, and he's definitely a sleeper option and a good play as well versus a weak Philadelphia Eagle team where we see teams go up and down the field on. So right here, I like him a lot as a sleeper option, and that's a few wide receivers I have as sleepers for Week 8 of the fantasy football season.